Guys, I wanted to try something new here. I've already given you guys all feedback and grades on your headline writing assignment. I also wanted to tell you all collectively some of the things that I've been seeing, and also responding to some of the comments you guys made in the discussion section about how you felt about other people's headlines and also how you felt about the overall experience. So first, let me take a look at the other headlines, and here's the list of all of the headlines that I posted on the discussion board. As you guys know, I've grabbed about 5 headlines from each of you. In some cases, it was the ones that you had already bolded as your favorites, and that's about half of them. The other half are ones that I just kind of picked out that I really liked from each of you. I wanted to talk about some of the comments you made and some of the things I've been seeing. I highlighted in red some of the ones I'll be talking about. By the way, this doesn't mean necessarily that these are all my favorites, but they are basically what I consider some of the best ones from me personally and also from what you guys were commenting on. There's a couple of different types of headlines that really surfaced here. Looking at the left column here, you see childhood 2.0, and I would actually put this in the same sort of category as the next one about 6 items down, when liking meant you actually liked it. And I really like these. Somebody had made a comment when it came to childhood 2.0, basically saying, this is like, instead of saying we're going back in time, it's more a matter of saying this is something old that's coming back that's new again. It's sort of like a new experience that infuses some of the old. So I thought that was pretty clever. Also, same with when liking meant you actually liked it. It's basically like saying, let's take something modern like Facebook and then apply it to a nostalgic sense of the 1980s when Facebook didn't exist, but we're sort of doing a mix of the past and the present. And so I thought that both of those were pretty clever. In the second column, you've got this one, the other king of pop. There's also one in the right column that says the king of pop is back. There were a few of you guys that had come up with a king of pop one, and I thought this was really clever. Never would have thought about this, but it's a perfect mix of both something that references Pepsi, because pop is another word for soda, and also something that references the nostalgia element, the 80s angle, because Michael Jackson was at his peak then. He was known as the king of pop. I just thought that this was great. Do I have a favorite between these two? Not necessarily. Someone also had the real king of pop. Real speaks to the real thing for Pepsi. The king of pop is back. Maybe the best, most accurate one. But again, if you guys were working for me, I was your creative director, you were my copywriters, I would say something like, great, I love this king of pop angle. Let's see what else we can do with this. Maybe we can do something with the visual to make it reference Michael Jackson a little bit more clearly. It also works out perfectly because Michael Jackson actually endorsed Pepsi in the 80s pretty famously. I don't know if you guys knew that, but it works out pretty well. There's a couple that I really love, and one of them is in the second column, one's in the third. It's Take a Sip Down Memory Lane and also Splash from the Past. These came from two different people. What these things have in common is that they are very much, let's take a common phrase that speaks to nostalgia, like a trip down memory lane or a blast from the past, and then let's infuse a little bit of something unique to a beverage about it, which is when you change trip to sip or you change blast to splash. Very clever. Again, it's very short, it's simple. When you see it with the picture of the throwback can, I think people would instantly get it. In fact, those two work pretty well together as a campaign. You could have a whole series like that saying, let's take a common phrase and infuse a little bit of beverage language into it. Some of these got very specific, and I enjoyed seeing that too. Again, in the second, third, and fourth columns, basically all the long ones. You have the once upon a time, we read books instead of Kindles, held hands instead of iPhones, and high fructose corn syrup was simply sugar. There's a lot of specifics in there, which is kind of cool. Also, like in the right column, remember your 8th grade math teacher you had a crush on? She still looks good too. Again, it's like, let's now actually use a lot of words to paint kind of a picture. And it's funny, the one on the right made me laugh. Other things that are kind of specific and funny in this third column, you've got when real sugar, with real sugar because you haven't faked it since junior prom. I think this was the most commonly cited one as people's favorite in terms of being surprising and being funny. It's hilarious. It's great. It's a great way of making real come alive in a different kind of a way. It's also nice and specific, since junior prom. The only downside to this one is that I feel like this works much better for a female audience than a male audience, which was the target audience. But I'd still say it's a great headline. And again, if you were my copywriters at a business, I would say, okay, let's come up with a bunch more, things that have to do with faking it that are funny. Then you've got the one at the bottom of the third column. They say if you hold it up to your ear like a conch, or is it conch? I never know. You can hear your favorite 80s song playing. Again, this is just kind of funny. It's almost nonsensical, but it definitely has a lot of personality to it. It ties it back into the 80s. It's almost like saying this is, a way that you can connect back with the past. Um, Ways that I think this one could be a little better. I don't think you need that part like a conch. I think people get when you hold it up to your ear and you hear something, they connect that with a shell. So I would just trim those three words out of there. And then instead of you can hear your favorite 80s song playing, I think that's great. And again, I would say, like, let's see a few more options. Instead of saying your favorite 80s song, maybe it would be funnier if we made it more specific. You can hear Duran Duran playing, or you can hear Madonna playing. Like, let's pick something that is very much an icon of the 80s music and infuse that. But the idea is really cool. Never would have thought of anything like that. And then in the right column, there's this one that says, if it's not broke. And I thought that was very clever too. Some people cited that. It's a nice intrigue one. It's basically purposely leaving you hanging. You could have said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But you don't have to, because by just showing the first half, you don't have to even say the second half. It basically lets the photo say, complete that sentence, complete that thought. Other trends that I was seeing here, I enjoyed seeing a lot of stuff that have to do with time travel. Those were very clever. There were a lot of them. So many different ways that comes alive. Like, this is a time machine. Soda can time machine, is one way of doing it. I saw someone say, it's like a time cancel instead of time capsule. So a lot of ways you can do that. And a lot of people also used, throwback as a verb instead of an adjective. So throw yourself back, throw back to another time. Again, these are all very clever. Just some last comments I wanted to share. People, when they commented on what it was like to create these things, people said, hey, it's kind of hard to write 50 headlines. Yes, I'm glad you saw that. It is not easy, and it takes time, and you can't always do it in one sitting. This is why writers need a little bit of time to do their thing. Sometimes you actually need to write a batch and then go get some distance from this, go out to lunch, do something else, then come back to it, write another batch. Also, different things like I got my best ones. Some people say they got their best ones early in the process. Others say I got my best ones around 25. Others say I got my best ones near the end. Many people cited that about halfway through it got really tough, and then they got their mojo back. So again, that's very common. You kind of have like a different workflow with these things. Um, Most people said that writing the nostalgia and the real sugar ones were more easy and more fun. Writing ones for the packaging was harder. That's a fairly common thing. It's like, hey, there's this support point about the packaging. It's a feature. We don't know if people really care about it. Therefore, it's harder to actually write something for it. You may find that your clients and bosses ask you to do that, and some are easier than others to write to. Some people said writing the invitation ones or question ones were easy, sometimes also the promise ones. Some said writing intrigue or story headlines are hard because you don't have any body copy, which is absolutely true. If you can actually have some body copy, it becomes much easier to tell a story or to have some intrigue. But some people were still able to pull it off. I would say if it's not broke is a little bit of intrigue because you're leaving people hanging. And I would say there's a lot of storytelling and things like haven't faked it since junior prom, remember your 8th grade math teacher. These are getting very specific. They're painting a picture. Um, and last, I noticed a lot of people say things that like you guys like seeing each other's headlines. It inspires you. It made you think, oh, I wish I thought of that, or oh, this is now like making me think of some new ideas. Well, that's great because if you feel like, hey, I wish I thought of things like that for this assignment, the next time I do this assignment, I'll do better. That's great to hear because as you guys know, for your midterm, you are going to have to write 50 headlines again for a different brand. So I want you to take things that you've learned from this assignment and apply it to the next one. Overall, though, I thought you guys did a great job, and I really like hearing that you guys are getting in a groove and are seeing where this stuff takes you.